Hey everybody, and welcome back. For those of you that are interested in learning a little bit more about differences between some of the more budget-friendly phones like the A14 5G and something like the S24 Plus, stay tuned. I'm going to cover some basics in today's video. So before we get started, don't forget to like and subscribe and check out the channel for new content. All right, so jumping straight in, I have both of these phones set up on the same Google Fi carrier. So I have Wi-Fi off, so you'll see similar differences between the two. Both are 5G devices, but obviously the S24 Plus is much newer. Now, a couple of things to note, because a lot of people tend to have comments along the lines of, well, one's more expensive, that's to be expected based on the specs or it being a flagship device, and that's totally understandable, but I don't think that there are a lot of videos out there that actually show the devices side by side. Yes, the S24 Plus is going to have a better battery life, better display, things of that nature, but it can be hard when you don't see the two side by side to get an idea of really what that experience is like. So having both side by side preloading the Codeless Fix website, which is my website, you can do things like scroll down from the top and just see the differences in really just basics, like how quickly they load it. So that really not too much of a difference in the overall experience and speed to load, but the website has already been loaded. Now, as we scroll through, you'll see a similar just overall experience between the two when we are navigating between the website. Now what we can do is we can go in an incognito window on both, and we'll test, based on the fact that they're both in the same network, how long they take to load the exact same website. So what we're going to do is we're going to put these side by side, and then we're going to hit go as close to at the same time as possible. And you'll notice that although this one does appear to be a little bit ahead, one thing to note is it handles individual tasks very well. But when it comes to tasks that are more demanding or multiple tasks simultaneously, it does tend to struggle. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up something simple on both. So we'll open up the clock on both devices. So you'll see we have alarm clock here and alarm clock here. When we do something simple like switching between tasks, so this one, you'll see it's much more fluid on the S24. But again, when we switch between the tasks, it navigates pretty well. However, if you continue to use the device, let's just say we open up the phone app, and then we want to continue to switch between the various apps as they're running, you'll start to notice some pretty substantial declines in performance on something like the A14 5G. Now, obviously, this is something that kind of increases over time and over usage. So if we were to do something like open Pandora on both devices, you'll see that they both load relatively quickly. So no major concerns there. They don't start to play. But again, once we start switching between tasks, you'll start to notice some slight differences which get much, much worse. For example, if we open up Chrome on the A14 5G, and let's just say that we want to open a new tab. You'll see I've clicked it, and sometimes you may just need that extra click. And as we open up additional tasks, it will start to get bogged down. So let's just say we go to the Samsung website, and you'll see it's loading very, very slowly. So we'll open up the other device and try to do the same thing. So we have Google Chrome opened. We'll open a new tab, then a new tab, and a new tab. So at this point, the expectation would be if we were to load the Samsung website, it would load relatively quickly. Now, again, both being on a similar network and the A14 having a head start, you'll see it's loading much slower. And once it's loaded, the pictures and the scrolling is just not as fluid. Things are rendering much slower. Now, these may seem like minor changes or minor issues, but it's something that becomes much more prominent when you're trying to do simple things like switching between tasks and deciding, okay, now I need to go back to this tab and really just multitask. Whereas when you're doing it on the S24 Plus, it's just a seamless experience. All of the menus, everything else load. And not to mention, this is much more apparent when you decide to start getting into things that are much more intensive on the processor. So for example, utilizing games or maybe image editing or something like that. So the actual, I guess, takeaway from this video, when it comes to build quality, both phones feel relatively good. I will say for something like the A14, I'm not in love with this textured back, but I do like the cameras and the layout and how it looks like a flagship for the most part. What I don't like is the speed and ease of use is not the easiest overall. Again, single tasks are easy to deal with, but it's very difficult to use on a daily basis if you're someone like me who can be a bit impatient. Now, another thing to note, camera quality when we compare the two. So there is a setting on both devices to double tap and open up the cameras. Now, when you have the best resolution set on both, you'll see that it's just a completely different experience. So if I'm just moving the camera back and forth, you'll see how it just seems kind of choppy on the left, but the same movements on the right are just incredibly fluid. So if we were to just pull both up, snap a quick picture from a couple of different angles, a couple of things you're going to note is, firstly, this one doesn't always take a picture as quickly. Sometimes you'll see it click a couple times, but it only takes the picture once. Now, as we're moving around, we can check the picture quality, and you'll notice that the quality tends to be much higher on the S24 Plus, which is expected. But not only that, the quality of the screen itself is substantially better. So overall, if you're limiting it specifically to budget, then something like the A14 would absolutely be worth it. However, if you were looking for a device that would be future-proofed, or future-proofed to an extent, meaning it would keep up more and more with day-to-day tasks, maybe a year or 2 or 3 from now, something like the S24 Plus is going to be a better bet. Again, between the two, they're pretty solid overall, and based on the tests that I've done for this video, you'll see that it doesn't seem like there's a substantial difference. But if you need a really, really good camera, or if you need to have a phone that can just run everything very, very quickly without worrying about apps crashing, then you're going to want to go with something that's a little bit newer and potentially a little bit pricier, because that's what you're going to get. But again, it's entirely up to you based on your budget and your needs. Let me know your thoughts in the comment box below.